Hey, what is going on, guys? The Heart Pirates TCG here, and I'm bringing you this updated tier list based on what we know now in the meta. This is based off of my own opinion, as well as tournament results and the opinions of people that I have talked to that I think are pretty knowledgeable. So, without further ado, let me go ahead. Actually, hold on. Before I bring you guys this tier list, I was wrong. About a little bit in the last tier list. Zoro is much better than I thought. He is definitely one of the best decks, and I know a couple of you guys said that in the comments, and I didn't believe you. But it takes me a little bit to warm up to these type of it just takes me a little bit to warm up, from my own skepticism. And I'm ready to admit that Zoro is one of the best decks. He is definitely top 3. Another one of the best decks is Whitebeard. Now, the Straw Hat version is so much better than the Moby Dick version. Like, way better in my opinion. It just feels like you always have the counters, and then you can even search out like Radical Beam and Guard Point with your Nami. It's just so good. It's so good. So these two definitely are the best decks. Zoro, because he's just so fast and so consistent, and it just feels like every time you fight for his board, he drops Newgate, and then it's the end game now, and it's over with, So those two are the best decks. Along with, I'm gonna go ahead and also say it, guys, I think Kid is also one of the best decks. I think it's really good. I think it doesn't have a lot of weakness. Now, you do have to play a couple cards to counter Kinemon's aggression. Like, you have to play X-Drake, and you have to play Killer, like the 3-drop Killer, to kill their Okiku. But other than that, I think this deck is phenomenal, and its late game is unmatched. I mean, it is just too good. I think Kinemon is one of the best decks as well. It can go... It's probably somewhere... I think Kinemon might be slightly better than Kid in certain situations, in certain matchups, just because you can play a lot of you can play a lot of rest manipulating cards, like you can play more Yamatos because they're cheaper. You can play Okiku on turn 1, obviously, which is really good. And then also, I don't think it's talked about enough, but Denjiro, if you guys want to play that 4/7 vanilla, I think it's just so good. I think that's a really strong card, and they're gonna have a hard time dealing with it. I mean, a 4/7 vanilla on turn 2 is just, it's really powerful. Kid can just swing twice, and that puts anyone that can't deal with that aggression on a clock, and that's why I think he's really good. So I think those are the top 4 decks, followed by, we're gonna go ahead and put, so I think everything else is going to be kind of good, and it's a really close race. It's a really close race between them. So we'll put Smoker at kind of good. The reason Smoker's not really good is because he loses to himself. Like, you don't have the draw power. You don't really have the high end power without Kuzan. And sometimes if you can't drop Kuzan, like if your board and life isn't safe enough to drop Kuzan, then you're kind of just losing the game, and there's not really a whole lot you can do. I think he can play into Whitebeard really well, and that's kind of about it, to be honest with you. I mean, he doesn't really play anything else that well, and I'll explain why throughout this video. But if you look at another deck that's kind of good, it's Law. And the reason I don't think Law is really good right now is just because there's so many cards to just deal with his characters, like Zoro. He can deal with all of his little tiny characters on the field, and then he also has 4 life, and Zoro's hyper aggressive and can just end the game very early. So Law is not that good. Also, he's not really good right now, also because Kinemon could just rest characters with Yamato and Okiku, and all these characters. Like, it just feels like it's very tough to get to 5 characters and sustain a board of relevance in order to gain the advantage to end the game. And that's why I don't think Law is really good right now. I think he will be in and out of every meta for the next like 5 or 6 sets. I mean, he's just a guy, he's just a character that, or a leader that can be really nutty and have some insane plays and value, and you know, swing big and have these cool combos, but sometimes they just don't matter enough to end the game. I think another deck that's kind of good that could also, I'm actually going to put this as the best deck in this section right here in the kind of good, it's still Flamingo. I think, and I said this actually last set too, I don't think I said it on here, but I was talking to my friends at locals, and I said that Doflamingo is only not good because 8-drop Kid exists so much in the meta, you know, because the second 8-drop Kid comes out, Doflamingo's done. There's almost no way you beat that with Doflamingo, right? And against every other matchup, against Kaido, against Luffy, Zoro, what other decks were there? And I mean, not really. I mean, Law too. Like they were winnable matches. Like you actually had an advantage in some of those matches, and then it was 50-50 in the other one. So I just felt like Doflamingo right now, especially because he wants to go first and everyone wants to go second, I think he's really strong and he can build a board for cheap while being aggressive. So I think he's the best of the kind of good decks right now. Another kind of good deck that I think, actually, hold on a second. Let's go back to really good. I think Ivankov is really good. I think this deck is phenomenal, and the only thing that actually like hard beats it is 8-drop Kid still, and then I've heard that Whitebeard beats it, but I don't know if people are skilled pilots of the deck, because in theory Ivankov can build a hyper aggressive board incredibly quick, and they have the value to protect those cards, right? So like obviously you don't dump your entire hand just to get to 0 cards. What you do is you play a normal game until you drop Ivankov and like your Luffy, and you know, you do your little 7-drop plays, and then you protect your cards, your big cards with the 7-drop, or with the cards in your hand, and then you just replenish them at the end of the turn. So I think Ivankov is really good. I honestly think that it has a place in this meta if people play it right, and I'm actually going to be experimenting with this deck a little bit too, just to kind of prove my own hypothesis. But so that's, I think all of those, let me double check real quick. Yeah, all of those are really good, and then we're gonna move on to a couple more in kind of good, and then we'll go to it. All right, so we'll go to Z. Z is really good against a lot of different matchups. He's good against Smoker. I think Z's really good into Kinemon. Z's not that good into my deck in Kid, just because I play it very aggressively, but I think Z's pretty good into like Doflamingo, just, you know, like possibly, you know, like other matchups like that, good into Kaido, stuff like that. But yeah, Z has a lot of good matchups. He just has a lot of bad matchups too. I don't think Law is a good matchup for him, and I don't think Zorro or Whitebeard are good matchups for him either. And those are that's a lot of the deck, you know, like that's a lot of the meta, which is tough. You know, it's real tough when you're playing a deck that just hard loses to a lot of other good decks in the meta, which is kind of like the Doflamingo struggle of last set. We're gonna go to kinda good, and we'll go to Magellan. I believe Magellan's gonna be our last card, our last leader in this category. And the reason he's kind of good is because being able to manipulate the other player's Dawn is a really good idea. It's a cool concept. It throws them off their game, and it can just be suffocating, you know, like when you drop Magellan after Magellan after Magellan, like 2 or 3 Magellans in a row, it just feels like, how do you win that game? Because you're constantly applying pressure while also having the consistency with Hannibal and like impel down the stage spell, like the stage spell. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh player, but it just feels like this deck can be really oppressive and suffocating. But there's other times where it just doesn't feel like it does enough, you know. Especially now that, like, with the king plays that you can make, yeah, like it still has access to king. I think that's really cool. But it's kind of good. It's not really good, but it's kind of good. Then we're gonna go on to Luxaki. I think Sanji, blue-green Sanji is Luxaki. It can just be one of the most annoying decks on the planet, but it has like almost no recursion, and then it just, I mean, it revolves around playing vanillas, you know. So like yeah, you can play a lot of vanillas like back to back to back, but like, how are you going to protect him? Because like your whole hand goes on your field, you know, like there's not a lot of ways to protect him. I know you can play Love Mellow. I know you can play like Deathwink and like a character Ivankov to draw cards, but it feels like something's missing from this deck. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's Luxeki. It can win games. I've seen it top tournaments. I just don't think it's that good. I think same with Kaido here, because Kaido obviously is still revolving around Onigashima in a way, right? Not like it did last set, but if you're gonna play Kaido without Onigashima, the better version is just Magellan, you know? So if you don't draw Onigashima, you still are in a bad spot, because the deck doesn't really do anything that Magellan can't do, and you're playing a lot of the Impel Down cards anyway. It's just, if you get Onigashima, it's just, you know, like, it's better than Magellan if you get Onigashima, but I mean, we're not gonna rely on that. I don't think it's a good strategy. Let's see. What else do we got here? Pretty bad. We're gonna go ahead and put Luffy down here. I don't see the plays, guys. I don't see how this is useful in the slightest. Like, anything he does is not that good. Same with Blurple Kaido. I know the guys in my Discord are gonna go off on me saying Blurple Kaido is good. Guys, I don't see it. I don't see it, guys. I understand that you have like your own testimonies and eyewitness accounts and all this and all that of like why Blurple Kaido is slept on, but it's just, show me the results in a real tournament, you know, like in a major tournament, in a case tournament, hell, even in a box tournament. Show me those results and show me why it is viable against any of these top decks, and I'm willing to listen. All right. Actually, for Luxeki, we're gonna go Garp as well. Garp is pretty Luxeki. So I've tried to build Garp in so many different ways. I've tried using the Dawn Manipulator, Nami, and the Luffy. I've tried using like Ice, like, you know, like Ice Age. Like, I've done a lot of wacky stuff with Garp, right? And it feels like when he's winning, dude, he's winning. Like, you can't do anything about it. But when he's losing, you're like, damn, this deck feels like a piano that hasn't been tuned in 15 years, that has razors in some of this in some of the keys, and it just hurts you to play it, you know? It just hurts you to play it. And it doesn't feel good. So it's Luxeki. You're trolling. I'm still putting Crocodile under your trolling. Pretty bad. I'm putting Blurple Crocodile in the top of pretty bad. I'm putting Luffy in pretty bad, and I'm putting Odin in your because Odin actually has some cool plays. I'll put Odin actually as the second best deck in pretty bad. And that's the list, guys. That's the tier list. I think I nailed this one on the head. I know I say that like every single tier list, but with what we know now in the meta, I feel like this is the way. I feel like this is a solid list, and you know, it represents the meta, in my opinion. I know you guys are gonna be like, oh, Kid's not in the meta anywhere, but hey man, Kid's good, bro. Kid is good, and everyone that I've talked to, like after I played them with this deck, or after, like, you know, just in general, like theory crafting, has said this deck is still like super annoying. It's just not a lot of people play them because they want to play Kinemon, or like they're moving on to other things. But this deck is still really good. If more people brought this to tournaments, you would see it topping way more. And actually, even the people that commented on my video, my deck profile, said that they took this to locals and went like 3-1, 4-1, 5-0. Like, this deck is still really solid. So let me know what you guys think. I'm excited to make some more videos. I have a tournament video coming out tomorrow, and probably the next day as well. If you guys want to join our Discord, join it. It's in the description below. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.